Hi, chat. Welcome, everybody. Hope you all are doing well. We're doing something different today. I haven't really done a an art stream before. But wrong screen. Hang on. But yeah. So I've been working on learning to draw, and I have started with the Drawbox lesson series. Which, if you're not familiar, there's the link in chat if you want to check it out. We've got some exercises. So I have at this point done all of the lesson one exercises. I have gotten some official critique back from the Drawbox staff, and the okay to move on to the 250 box challenge. So that's what we're working on today. I'm starting with a warm up. So this is gonna be this might end up being quite a bit of a short stream today. Depending on just how much stamina I have to sit and work on this, because I don't have anything else I'm planning to do. But we are going to start with one of the exercises. And let me see, which one do I want to work on today? One of the warm-up exercise, one of the lesson one exercises, in part as a warm-up. Actually, I have been doing a lot of straight lines and boxes lately, so let me pull up the old Ghosted Planes exercises I've done before. I'm going to put that away for right now. And this is an exercise on ellipses. So the idea of this one is to ghost ellipses and try to get them within the confines of the box. And I don't want to start at the edge of the page right away, because as a warm-up, I don't know how accurate I'm going to be, how decently I'll be at getting it within the box. So we'll do one in the middle, so that way if I overshoot, I don't go off the edge of the page. That was a little bit rough, but yeah, the idea is to try to touch all four sides of the plane that I did. This is Ghosted Plane, which is ghost the line between a couple of points that you set before making one mark to draw it. Has me connect corners, has me connect from the middles. So we're reusing this old warm-up for this one. And ellipses are one of the ones that I have trouble with. I think using the pinky as a guide is helpful here. And then I am to go around the entire ellipse twice. And because we've got a lot of odd shaped planes here, this will be good for varying width. But this lesson series has been very helpful for me, because one of my biggest hangups with drawing is that I'm never happy with the lines that I make. I've spent so much of my time drawing from the wrist, which of course, with longer lines, is going to be not straight lines, weird arcs, jagged lines. And of course, circles are very difficult to draw. Something like this, before I even started on this, the accuracy of that ellipse, like that never would have been possible with the technique that I was using before. So I've only got 3 center planes on this sheet. So I am maybe being a little bit careless. So let me be a little slower, a little more careful. And this is just the warm-up before I actually do. Yeah, so I feel like that's a little more squashed than I would like it. Goes a little bit straighter outside of the edges than I intended, but that's fine. I'm gonna do this one around this way because the edge of the paper is distracting me. So immediately the first thing that we start off with this in this lesson series is learning to draw from the shoulder, which is exactly what I need to get into doing this the correct way. Yeah, and here's a problem that I keep having where I kind of start to correct when I see myself make an error, which really highlights on the second go around on the ellipses. This isn't going to be anything like super exciting. This is just forcing myself to work on these exercises. Not really forcing myself, like I really want to work on this, but, you know, why not stream it? You have to be very conscious how I'm sitting, my posture, my arm position, and everything, because if I start to relax too much, then I'm going to start having trouble moving. Like, hand fully flat, I keep catching the edge of the page, and I get this curling. I don't want that. Is where the pinky is helping a lot with this. And the idea of ghosting here is to create the muscle memory before actually executing the line. So I put the pen down and we just go. That's actually, like, I did have a bit of self-correction there on the second go around, but that one came out pretty good, pretty smooth. I also have a new redeem that is tied to this as well, which hasn't been active on my recent streams because I've been doing Outer Wilds with Boots accompanying me. And when I have a collaborator, I don't want a significant interruption to the gameplay out of courtesy for the guest or collaborator. So I have disabled the redeem for collaborator streams. It will be enabled for this one, but it's a little redundant in that it forces me to stop what I'm doing and then work on one of these exercises. We've got the whole hand cam set. Oh, that's pretty bad. Last one, and that's pretty bad. We've got the whole hand cam set up. So if somebody redeems it, we can sit and do one of these warm-up exercises. And the further I go, the more warm-up exercises get added to the stack. So with that out of the way, we can move on to the exercise itself. I'm not going to sit and grind it. I'm not going to sit and strive for perfection there. It's a warm-up. This is the exercise that we're actually working on, which is the 250 box challenge. You can see it's a bit of a mess. And the idea here is per page, I'm drawing 5 to 6 boxes at a time. I'm sticking with 5 just to keep the numbers even. 5 to 6 boxes. This is going to be for the first 50, we've got the vanishing points visible on the page. These are all marked with symbols to determine which box they belong to. And we are working on the Y method. To construct these boxes. And it's, you know, as the name implies, we start with a Y. Missed the dot there. And it can be any shaped Y as long as no angle is less than 90 degrees here. Any size lines as well. Those are fine. And then from there, I'm constructing my vanishing points. Go off to the edge of the page because these are already pretty tight. We've got some pretty dramatic foreshortening in this perspective. So give myself as much room here, which, you know, for these really long ones like this is very helpful. Let's make the dots nice and thick. And then what we're doing is we are setting a trajectory from a vanishing point to one of the vertices of the box. And I'm making a couple of reference points, small reference points, to determine how that line goes. I have 2 of them here because when I send this one along, I have a short distance between the two to see where the 2 lines will intersect. Right about here. And then we just draw the line. And my ghosted lines are still not perfectly accurate. We're working on that. You want to try to get those smooth lines. It's not accurate. Okay, that's better. Fortunately, one of those did end up as a little bit more line. Okay, that's our point. Go. And I'm not going to try to force myself to correct here. The mark is on the page. We're going to go with it. I don't want to treat every mistake as simply correctable for the sake of learning this technique. I don't think that's a meaningful thing to get hung up on here. As long as it's not distracting from the rest of what I'm doing, then it's fine. And we'll see after we get all 5 on the page and we start doing our trajectories, how that pans out. One thing is I definitely want to make sure I am starting at the right point, but these little bits of overshoot and slightly off from the point that I'm aiming at, we're just going to deal with it. Okay. Looks good. And then we're looking for that back point, which is going to be where the lines to each vanishing point intersect. This is where, as we do more boxes, it starts to get a little more overwhelming. That dot is closer than I would like to. It looks like that is a decent spot. I don't want to get too caught up in trying to perfect this corner. Because as I like lose my trajectory on here, as each of these goes a little off, that's going to adjust that corner. And a key detail of this exercise is to not get caught up on the corner being off. It is a distraction. And it gives us information. So there's my box. We're drawn all the way through. Now we use the technique to add a little bit of line weight to show which lines are in the front. These are the only 2 cross points, so that is a finished box. It's a little messy. It's fine. Make sure I date this up. This is box number 11. And vanishing points are the 6 pointed stars. So we'll start on the next box. We can see I've got quite a bit of distortion here as this back face distorts to this corner up here. And when we're going to go over this with colored markers to show how far off each of these lines goes to the vanishing point, and we'll get to see just how much deviation we have that's creating that level of distortion. Greater than 90 degrees. Okay. Now when we get to the next 50, this becomes a little bit more of a challenge, because we no longer have the physical vanishing points on the page. We have to kind of estimate them. It's going to be less dramatic foreshortening. So where we've got here, the vanishing point is right here on this page. This is all going to be very dramatic foreshortening. In the next 50, it's going to be way off there. So I have to kind of guess just how far they'll go. It's going to end up being just a slight deviation from being parallel to this line. But that is a beast to tackle. In a future part of this exercise. I created those 2 dots and I estimated incorrectly. This one is right there. A little bit of wobbliness there. Taking too much time to make that stroke, and I'm overcorrecting as a result of having that extra time. It's better. That's better. Okay. Hey, Boots, welcome in. Just dropping in to say hi. Hope to have a good stream. Well, thank you for popping in. This is just a little bit of an experiment doing an art stream here, just working on draw box exercises. This is the 12th box in my 250 box challenge here. Nothing too fancy, just boxes. Once again, too short, and a little bit of wobbliness there. There we go. Of course, of course. Thanks again for popping in. Have a good rest. Okay. So these tiny dots are what I kind of want to aim for here, because these won't show up very well in the end product. Got this. And then, did this correctly, then this line should also cross that same dot. Yep. Looks good. Might need to get a new pen soon. Now that is a much happier box. So this looks like a very dramatic distortion to me. This looks a little bit more natural to me. Like this looks more like perspective compared to this. So I have a feeling when we do the colored lines on this towards the vanishing points, it's going to look a little bit better. All right, next box. One thing that is a very important point to this exercise that I definitely want to... Hey, Acorn, welcome in. And congrats on getting first. One part of this exercise series that I definitely need to get used to and need to not shy away from is letting things overlap. The lines can get very overwhelming, but that's just how some projects are. So, not shying away from it, I get used to seeing how these lines overlap, and I can do a better job of keeping up with what goes where. Let me make sure I number the box. This is going to be a 5-pointed star. I'm doing well. How about yourself, Acorn? So again, we're going to the edge of the page. I think I will do one where the vanishing point is very, very close to the end of the line. Not quite exactly at the end of the line, because that's just triangles. But just as an experiment to see how that looks on this page. I think I've done it before. But to pull out, I will, in a second, pull out another example of one of the other exercises. Had such a good day, very happy, won a $39 card today. Ooh, congrats. Spend it on something good. So just as an example of where this series really pushes you to get used to looking at an overwhelming mess of lines, we've got the plotted perspective that you know, all of these are on top of each other, and as I draw, because we're starting from the vanishing point going to each point on the box, obviously I'm drawing a bunch of boxes in these very thick dark lines. I have to keep track of where everything is, and then when we get to the point of the cross hatches to help define it, make the faces clear, make it easier to see the boxes that we're drawing, I have to keep track of what boxes each line belongs to. That was the biggest challenge of this one. But I'm holding on to that energy, making a point not to shy away from the overlapping lines. Because when we do the cross hatches, everything will start to look a little bit more cohesive. So this is going to be a bit of a challenge because that dot can be a distraction. Welcome in, Cosmos. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. So we've got these two dots. We will ghost the line to the vanishing point to see. That's the cross section. Off. I'm very off. Actually, I think this second dot is right where we want it. Second dot that we did initially. So that's a curved line. Been dealing with things. Yeah, I remember you shared some news before. If I remember correctly, I just heard you had some news last night on Evil stream. I hope things go well. I hope things get better soon. And I think that's our spot. Bad. I keep whacking my headphones on my microphone. My head looking down like this while I've got my microphone up here like that. It's not used to this. Oh, that's right. Were you able to get access back to it yet? Or do you think you're going to end up having to make a new Discord account? Already got the new Discord account, yeah. Now, I don't remember if you were in my server, but you need to recover access. Whenever I find out an account has been compromised, I do immediately remove it for the sake of community safety. It is not generally a violation on the user's part, but just for the sake of preventing whoever took access to your account from trying to get to others. So of course, there's the invite link if you were in there and you want to get back in there. Mm, yeah. Right. And that's interesting. That point is right at the end of that line. Get a DM from the old account. DM to Wolfie Games now. Okay. I believe I'm in Evil's Discord, so I'm guessing I can find Wolfie in there. And yeah, that's our point. Looks like that lines up from all three sides. Let me not make the same mistake. Let me start from the point and go out to the edge. Because I start more accurately than I finish. So that will make the starting point more definitive. Yeah, see? Right there. It's completely off on that line. And there's our box. And this is number 13. And we'll move on to 14. And do this one right here. Here. Should be able to find them in the old Discord community. Remember, double check who you believe is messaging you to ensure they're not trying to steal your stuff. Yeah, if you ever see a link come through, well, one, if you ever see a link come through at all, hover over it to make sure the actual link matches the text. And anytime it doesn't, when the text itself is a link, that's a major red flag right there. And then open up a search engine and then type the URL directly into the search engine. Do not type it into the browser bar if you're used to searching from your browser bar. to see what comes up, and usually the first couple of results make it pretty clear whether or not that's a scam. Obviously, if the URL is something like a YouTube link, you know, or a Wikipedia link, then we can assume that those are probably fine. So because of where I started, this box is going to be a bit smaller than the others. And like I said, one of these I want to do some very dramatic foreshortening. This is going to be the one. I could have this last point go all the way over here, but we're going to put it right here inside this box. Hard to tell because the one that got me was a complex social engineering. Yeah, and that's what I've been seeing is a lot of these that are getting people, like it's not like a random bot that's like trying to get you to click something because you're not thinking. It is a real person that is actually messaging you. You know, another user messaged me at one point when another scam was going around, and I recognized it immediately. And I just made an offhand comment to the quote-unquote bot. I thought it was a bot. Like, oh, not you too. And immediately they responded with, what? No, I'm not a bot. I haven't been hacked. It's like, oh, okay. Yep, this is probably like one of those scam telemarketing firms. Yep, and there it is. That is gonna be a very dramatic angle there. Oop! What? Nessa! Welcome in, Raiders! Good to see y'all. Hope you're doing well. Also, thank you for the alert, Cosmos. Raiders, if you need to raid and run, by all means, please go take care of yourself. If you have a moment to stick around, I'd love to hear what you were up to. Anybody that's not familiar with me, I am Jackie Automation, or just Jackie for short. I started out streaming as a Satisfactory and Minecraft streamer. I've lately come back from a semi-hiatus. We're doing Outer Wilds on Tuesdays, and today I'm trying something new, working on Drawbox exercises on stream. This is the 250 box challenge, and I am, as of this box I'm working on, 14 boxes in. Anybody that is not familiar with Drawbox, you can check it out there. It's a free online lesson series. If you do subscribe to their Patreon, they do have a tier that gives you access to official critique from the Drawbox staff, which is what I've been doing. Nessa says, I was piddling around in the new hardcore world, had a bunch of audio issues that we got temp fixed for, but the actual gameplay went well. Oh, that's good to hear. It sounds like you survived to the end of stream in your new hardcore world. Otherwise, I assume the gameplay wouldn't have gone well. What's the theme of this world? Do you have any specific projects you're working on? I made that line there, but I have a feeling... Oh, nope. That's the one we're going to use. Yep, still alive and kicking. Fantastic. One of these days I'll try hardcore again. That's where I started out, was with Minecraft on stream, was doing hardcore worlds, and I could not get a world to last longer than 4 streams. One of these days I'll figure it out. And I will probably try to do so on stream, where it will be very funny to watch me lose another world. Anything goes, no creative planning ahead of time. Whatever happens, happens. It's a great way to do it. I think, that's the one. There's our outside of the box. We'll draw through this time. sort of to help combat the overall life burnout by not having to think too much. Yeah, yeah, that's a nice thing to have, is to have something that you can just pop on stream and just work on without feeling like you have to do a whole lot of prep when you're trying to keep up a consistent streaming schedule. That's something that I still need to figure out. But you know, this has all been just like one big experiment. So we'll work on the experimental streams. See what I feel like, see what feels easier to stream that people seem to enjoy. And as I mentioned at the start of the stream, I do have a new redeem. If anybody were to, actually, I should disable it right now because it is completely redundant. But when I am doing a solo stream, you will be able to redeem the reward draw a box exercise, which I will, at that point, I will stop what I'm doing and spend up to 30 minutes. It will be the duration of one warm-up. They shouldn't last 30 minutes, but, you know, we'll see how things go at the time of the redeem, and you guys can help me stay on top of this and keep up with my exercises whenever I'm live. Find it. There it is. So we will disable that for right now, because I don't want y'all to waste your channel points on the thing that I'm actually already doing. Alright, so we've got that dot. And we see that is way off. This is that point where, you know, I'm warned to not get distracted by that back corner. So I could sit and I could fight with this a whole bunch to try to get that back corner to line up correctly. Actually, I think that's not that bad. I think this... No, this was the new point that I made. So we'll do a point in between. Yep. Thank you for the lurk. Go get yourself some food. Go take care of yourself. And thanks again for bringing your people over. Okay, I made the mistake again where I started from the edge, and now I've got a distracting point there. Because I tend to overshoot and I tend to miss. Overshoot or undershoot. If I had warmed up with Ghost... Yeah, there we go. That's... There's no way that's right. These are going to be way off from each other. Alright, so 13 was a 4-pointed cross. This will be a 3-pointed star. And then we'll do one more over here. And I'm not going to try for the super dramatic foreshortening on this one again. We're going to get a nice, decent size. And we're just going to go to the edges of the page once again. This one, let it be a little misshapen. A little closer to 90 degrees than usual. Just to see what we end up with. Kay asks, when it says lessons that focus on fundamentals, does that mean the fundamentals of drawing? That's what I assume. So I'm actually coming into this as a complete beginner. I have gone through the first lesson at this point, and the focus on it has been about getting a rough understanding of perspective drawing, as well as building the muscle memory for making smooth lines. That is this ghosting method that I'm using, spending a lot of time on because this is very new to me. You know, where I'm used to drawing like with my wrist, and getting these very crooked, jagged lines that, and you know, I'm not going to get a satisfactory result from that. So this new method, learning to draw from the shoulder, that I'm getting used to, that is exercise 1. Exercise 1, 2, and 3, honestly, with the ghosted lines and ghosted planes as well. So I can't really say, like, that is the fundamentals of drawing as if I know for certain, but that is what my understanding is at this point. What I can say is that this is definitely dramatically improved both my ability to make satisfactory lines. It's going to be right there. And my motivation to keep working on it, because I am getting results I intend, which is not something I could have always said. A lot of these end up looking like perfectly straight lines. They're not, but because we've got this dramatic foreshortening, they are coming across as very straight lines. That one to be a little more clear. And I'm really appreciating this focus on like making marks that are not part of the final product, just like getting used to them being here as part of the process, especially because, you know, I have a goal of taking these skills to digital art because I want to work on my own stream assets. And of course, at that point, you know, I'm working with layers. I would like to learn how to incorporate these techniques into physical medium. But, you know, I'm not going to get too fixated on not understanding how that translates when you've got marks that you don't want to appear in the final product at this stage, because that's just not what the focus of this is. Let's not put the cart before the horse, you know. One step at a time. Almost a perfect ghosted line if I'd kept that going just that little tiny bit, point to point. And that last point here. What you're saying about drawing with your hand, getting jagged, not straight lines versus moving the whole arm. Learned a bit about drawing, including that, and a different way to hold a pencil than when you're writing. Yeah, like when I write, this is how I'm holding, but like doing this, especially with this ghosting method, like I'm holding much higher up on the pen, as well as holding it at a 90-degree angle to the paper instead of at that normal 45 that I'm used to. And what that's allowing me to do is when I'm doing the ghosting method, I can use my wrist and my fingers to pull that pen very far away from the paper straight up. I don't lose any angle. So when it's time, when I've ghosted enough, when I feel confident in the muscle memory I've built, instead of losing that muscle memory by having to like shift my elbow because I got to push my palm into the paper from how close I am, you know, I just let it drop down straight. My arm, my elbow, everything stays in place, so I can still utilize that muscle memory that I've just spent all that time building. Here we go. This one is very far off. So we've got these two off to their vanishing points intersect at this point right here, and then this one to its vanishing point hits this point. So for the method that we have been taught, we will take the average of the 3 points, and it will not be correct. But again, we're not going to get fixated on that back corner. The back corner is just culmination of the errors that we've made up to this point. And the whole point of this is to see, you know, how those errors combine kind of compound on each other. Okay, so that is box number 15. The vanishing points will be just an acute angle as our two-pointed star. And we will move on to the next part of this exercise, which is drawing through the lines with a colored marker. All the way out to the intended vanishing point to see just how close or far off we have gotten. And of course, because the vanishing point was measured for this initial Y that we create for the box, these three lines should line up perfectly. If they don't, then I made the vanishing point in the wrong spot in the first place. I'm only going to go as far as to see where that vanishing point is, where these intersect. We're going to do the line, all four, including the inside line at the back. We're going to see how far off each of these goes. So if we did this perfectly, all four of these lines would converge at this point specifically, but of course it's off, and we can see the most off is going to be this back corner, because these two lines were this far off in the first place compared to this one. That just compounds onto this one, which is now going all the way out here. We've lost our back corner there. But that back corner is also giving us the most information out of all of it, because we can see just how much these little mistakes add up. And I don't think we're aiming for perfect with this. I don't think the goal is to get exact, but to just continuously improve on what we've done before. And to see like where those mistakes add up to a very dramatic bit of distortion, as we can see here with this bottom plane on this one. Compared to, like, this is a box that I'm very happy with how the perspective looks to me. And we'll see just how close this one gets. I also like to learn to draw, create digital art for content creators, either for myself or others. Made a start at it, but that project went on the back burner. Yeah, I mean, the first creative project I have done for my channel, you're in fact looking at it, which is my egg right here. Did that following an 8-hour rig along for from Moo Moo Clover. See, we can see how much better these get together. And even though this is as far off as it is, and we can see compared to this line, this one's very far off. The box as a whole still looks pretty good. Yeah, following a rig along for Moo Moo Clover, and you know, the success that I've had with this, obviously, you know, like this is just a silly little egg. Not very complex, but I was able to make something that I'm pretty happy with, that I feel decently satisfied with how I was able to animate it, how I was able to convey motion. That I felt inspired to keep going with it, and we're gonna see how far I can go with it. And I had one of the reasons that I was feeling a little uninspired to stream was because I constantly felt like I had to like be fully presentable for stream every time I went live because I had my face cam on. So having this model to fall back to when I'm just I just don't have that motivation, but I still want to be here for you guys. It's been very helpful. We don't have to put this away. We can start with green on the next one. Yeah, so this is, I think, pretty good. Obviously, we can do better. We have not hit the point exactly. But everything is roughly converging to the same point. It is just this one that is completely off on angle from this. Art is clean, and you know what it is, and I think the animation is great. Well, thank you. Yeah, I'd love to see how far I can go with this. Being able to create my own art, like complex art from scratch for this. Look at that. That is flawless. Except for the fact that that's a 3-pointed star and that's a 5-pointed star. That's not correct. Hang on. We do have to make sure that this is properly marked for official critique, so 3-pointed star on box 14. And I know that's where the mistake is, because I have these counting down per box, starting with 6 points all the way down to 2 points. Beautiful. Look at that. This line isn't perfectly straight, so we're going to try to do a bit of rough estimation to keep that accurate. Now, there are two techniques here from one of the previous exercises, which is either go from the point to point or go from the length of the line. And for this, I am primarily going for the length of the line. So, except for that back end, and we're gonna do the other vanishing points to see where that came from. But except for that back end, we've hit the right point. And already I can see the start of those errors that are compounding to the back point being in the wrong spot. This is, of course, going to be atrocious. These are effectively parallel. We don't want that. So, I mean, these almost look like they are converging on a vanishing point. These roughly look like they would hit the same spot. See what happened on this side. Part of these mistakes is going to end up being that when I ghost, I don't quite hit the final point that I intend to. That does add to the errors that cause that back point to be so far off. But if we look at this, these are off, but they're still going to a consistent vanishing point. It's just not the vanishing point that I intended them to go to, which tells me that where I actually made the error was directing to a vanishing point. If we were to line this up here, we'd find that point is going to go closer to here. Probably about there. Hang on. Oh. Yeah, probably about here, and that one is completely off. Is that because that's because I lined up to this vanishing point and not the one down here, where all of those are going to culminate. All right, on to the next one. We do this for all 5 boxes. I'm going to do at least 2 pages of this today. And we'll see how I'm feeling after that. I'm off tomorrow, so if I'm up a little late tonight, I'm not too worried about that. So these hit a consistent vanishing point. Now this line, we missed our point. If we did not miss our point, then we would actually be pretty close to that vanishing point that we've created that is not the vanishing point that we intended. But because we were so far off our mark, it's going to be a little more dramatic. I can just imagine what this looks like trying to watch me rotate the page and just going the long way around. Like, why am I doing that? Why are they doing that? It would drive me nuts to watch. So if we had done the point, if we had actually hit our mark on this one, we'd still be pretty off. But so far, this one's not turning out too bad. Back point here. And green. One of the mistakes that this exercise points out before you even get started is making sure that you're drawing your vanishing points in the right direction. If I were to take this and go off that direction, all of these are going to separate. I'm not going to see where they are in comparison to the vanishing point. And this part of the exercise just becomes completely useless. Oh, bad break. We'll finish this up and then chat about this box once we get back from the ad. Alright, and welcome back from the ads. Oh, that's going to happen every time I come back from break, isn't it? Get my model out of the way. Kay says, I'm still not really getting what you're putting on the page. Are there multiple boxes? There are so many lines there, like you're adding new drawings on top of older ones. Yes. So there are 5 to 6 boxes to a page. I'm sticking with 5 because, you know, this is the first 50. The next 50 is going to have its own set of rules, and the final 150 is going to be kind of a mix of the two, but without the drawn vanishing points. So I had mentioned earlier on, we've got one of the other one of the other exercises I worked on really emphasizes this, which is when dealing with structuring, which is where this is ultimately going, you're dealing with a lot of lines overlapping on top of each other. So I'm making a point to not shy away from letting the boxes overlap, with a point of getting used to having this overwhelming mess of lines. And if we look at one of the pages I've already done, I will be adding cross-hatching to kind of demonstrate where the boxes are in reference to each other, and like what is in front of and what is behind. So I find once the cross-hatching goes in, this becomes a little easier to understand. But yeah, so we've got 5 boxes here, and I will add the cross-hatching at the end to hopefully make this a little clearer on where one box ends and the next one begins. Yeah, I will say this exercise is not exactly designed to be like super easy to watch, because I mean that's not the point of it. The point is for somebody to sit and learn. And it's going to be reviewed by people who've worked with this exercise, who are very familiar with it. I did not number this box. This is box number 15. And we can see we're going to have an issue that really presents itself here, because this line is not even close. What a mess. But once I add the cross-hatching, it becomes a little harder to overlap more boxes on top, because we do have a certain size that we want to make a goal for each of these boxes, and there's just not enough room to have 5 boxes on the page of that size with reasonable vanishing points without them overlapping like this. So that line belongs to a different box. We want to make sure we don't overlap that. So that line is not too far from its vanishing point. This one should line up perfectly with the vanishing point, and it doesn't. So we started off with an error right away. It's only slightly off, but slightly off at the very start can lead to this. You can see this one is also very off. That is going to lead to this line just being off, going into nowhere. And the last one is this way. So you draw the box and then use the ruler to add lines, check the shape against the vanishing points. Yes, that's exactly what we're doing. I made the mistake on my very first one of drawing the colored lines first as soon as I finished that box. And fortunately, because it was just the one box, it wasn't an issue. But if I had kept going like that, by the time I was trying to draw my 5th box, I'd have enough distractions on the page that the 5th box was just going to look awful. So this line is so far from being straight that we're just going with the points, the intent, because there's no real way to say what is the actual line trajectory here. And we can see how these issues compounded. We've got this line goes off. This was a very good line. We've got this line goes off too far that way. This is hitting a different vanishing point as well. How far this one is off. And it's not just like on average how far they're off, but also which ones are off in what way. Where this one we can see this overshoots the vanishing point. This catches the vanishing point. Let's see. These two intersected very far off to the left. I missed this line. Yeah, and then just while I'm ghosting, I just wasn't as straight as I thought I was, so this was not actually coming down to this vanishing point. All right, last box. This one has this very heavily distorted bottom plane. Interested to see just how many points that went wrong. So that looks good. This is the one that should be perfect. Hi, Squid. Welcome in. Good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Saw that? Saw what? What? What did you see? So we've got... This is only slightly off the vanishing point. It's a little further up this way, and it's pretty... Where these two lines converge, it's pretty close to that initial line. So that's almost a consistent vanishing point, but... Let's go this way now. This is very close. And that's not terribly far off on that vanishing point. You just rioted because of my stupid audio? What? What happened to my audio? Off the page. Redeem is so loud compared to my voice. Okay, noted. It doesn't help that I'm, like, my microphone is not, like, right here for me. Let me see, where are my Twitch alerts? There they are. We'll turn that down a bit. Drop a few decibels. Did I reuse a color? I reused a color. Made a mistake. Wasn't even paying attention. Fine. Just draw over. Okay, there we go. Again, that's the one that should be perfect. This one we missed the mark, so we expect this one to be off. But we went from the point when we did the reference lines, which should have corrected that a bit. Let's see just how far that is. And there's Kay getting your check in. Yeah, so the actual point here is not terribly far off. I'm not unhappy with that one. And then this back corner, which is... This one's going to be very far off. Still pretty loud. The check-ins are the Twitch alerts, right? Alright, we'll see how that does. I'll have to go back and check the VOD and do some adjustments. My mic doesn't go higher without peaking. The mic is as good as it's going to get. Everything else just has to be set correctly. No. Consistent peaking doesn't sound good. All right, so now we're going to do the front face of the boxes. This is... I have to decide what boxes are in front and what boxes are in back. Yeah, if it peaks briefly, then that's not going to be very noticeable. But if it's sitting just constantly peaking, which is what I'm going to deal with if I turn my mic up any further, that's a different story. So we're going to do the cross hatching now. This will help make the boxes a little clearer where one starts and the next one ends. Hey, Lariska, welcome in. Squid says the boxes in front are the boxes that are in front. Hope this helps. Tee hee. Thank you, Squid. It does. It's very good. Now, a mistake I tend to make with the cross hatching is that I tend to rush it. But these lines are part of the project, and they should be done carefully. I am getting visually overstimulated just trying to look at this and see what boxes are what. All right, this box is going to be in front. There we go. This, I think, is our frontmost box. Reading the card explains the card unless it doesn't. Ah. We're talking about Magic the Gathering. I think this one's going to be on top of the one behind it. I love Magic the Gathering. I'm so glad you mentioned it. Were you having a crash out in Discord earlier about Magic the Gathering? That wasn't the game, was it? That was something else that made you concede a match. That was Beyblades ruining my Magic the Gathering. Somebody let her rip. It was loud. And this is the last box right here. The goal I'm having here is to not have any of my crosshatches become tangent lines. This is... That's where it is. Okay. Like I said, it's a little visually overwhelmed. Hard to tell what each line belongs to here. Because it's at the back, the crosshatch will not cover the boxes in front of it. Okay. Is stream buffering? Stream is buffering. I am having a poor connection.